The bright neon sign flickered above the diner, casting a warm glow over the pavement as evening settled in. Inside, the air was infused with a mixture of sizzling bacon and freshly brewed coffee, creating an inviting aroma that beckoned to passers-by. The diner, nestled between a small bookstore and a thrift shop, was a beloved local spot known for its hearty breakfasts and late-night burgers. Vinyl booths lined the walls, their red upholstery worn but comfortable, while the chrome accents reflected the low-hanging lights, giving the place a retro vibe. As patrons filtered in, laughter and chatter filled the air. A group of regulars huddled in one corner, debating the latest sports news, while a couple at the counter shared discreet whispers amid occasional laughter. Behind the serving line, the waitstaff moved with practiced ease, navigating between tables with plates piled high. The clattering of dishes and the hum of conversation blended into an orchestra of everyday life. In this lively environment, time seemed to slow down. The walls adorned with photographs from a bygone era spoke to the diner's rich history, punctuated by stories of customers who had crossed its threshold over the decades. Some came for the food, others sought companionship or solace. Among these familiar faces was Jamie, a young waiter known for his genuine smile and easygoing nature. He had worked at the diner long enough to establish connections with both customers and fellow staff. On this particular evening, however, Jamie was focused on more than just serving meals. He scanned the room, his eyes drawn to a figure sitting alone in a booth, a man whose weathered face told a story of struggles past. It was an encounter destined to change both their lives in ways they could not yet envision. Jamie was not just any waiter, he was a young man shaped by his experiences and driven by a sense of compassion. At 24, he had spent the last few years navigating life's ups and downs, including a season of uncertainty following his college graduation. With dreams of becoming an artist still simmering in the background, he found himself in the cozy diner where he felt a sense of belonging among the regulars and staff. Growing up, Jamie had often heard stories from his grandfather, a decorated veteran who had served during a tumultuous time. Those narratives painted vivid pictures of courage and sacrifice, and they lingered in his mind long after his grandfather passed away. The values instilled in him, empathy, respect, and the importance of giving back, shaped Jamie into someone who sought to uplift others around him. As a result, he grew increasingly involved in community outreach programs, volunteering whenever he could to support veterans and their families. In the diner, he took those values to heart. Every smile he exchanged and every plate he served was infused with genuine care. He recognized the power of connection in a bustling world. For many patrons, the diner was more than just a place to eat, it was a refuge from daily struggles. Jamie often took special note of customers who seemed isolated or troubled, determined to reach out even with small gestures. On this particular night, as he navigated between tables, Jamie felt an unusual pull towards the solitary man in the booth. Perhaps it was the memories of his grandfather or simply a deep-seated belief that everyone deserved kindness. Driven by instinct and compassion, he prepared himself for what would soon become a transformative moment, not only for the veteran before him but also for himself. As Jamie approached the booth, he caught his first full glimpse of the man seated there. The veteran was disheveled, with unkempt hair and a beard threaded with hints of gray, suggesting a life lived rough and tumble. His clothes were worn and tattered, a heavy, faded jacket that seemed 2 sizes too big and frayed jeans that had clearly seen better days. Despite the exterior, there was something dignified in his posture. He held himself straight, eyes scanning the diner with a distant, almost haunted gaze. "Evening," Jamie said, offering a friendly smile as he set down a glass of water. The man looked up slowly, initially startled as if he had been miles away in his thoughts. His dark eyes flickered to Jamie before shifting back to the bustling diner, momentarily lost in contemplation. "Thanks for the water," he finally replied, his voice raspy but gentle. It carried the weight of deep experiences, losses, and survival etched into every word. Jamie took a seat across from him, wanting to offer more than just service. "I'm Jamie," he introduced himself, hoping to spark a connection. "Mind if I ask your name?" "Call me Charlie," the veteran responded, a faint smile breaking through a tough exterior. As they spoke, Jamie noticed the deep lines that crisscrossed Charlie's face. Each mark seemed to tell tales of hardship and endurance. After a brief pause, Charlie began to share fragments of his past, the stories tumbling out like secrets long kept hidden. He talked about his time serving overseas, painting pictures of camaraderie with fellow soldiers and the profound trauma that followed him home. "You think you can just come back and forget about it all," he said softly, "but those memories, they haunt you." Jamie listened intently, heart aching with each word as Charlie recounted moments of bravery interwoven with deep sorrow. This wasn't just an encounter, it was an invitation into a world of resilience and pain, a narrative too often overlooked in the rhythm of daily life. Inspired by this connection, Jamie felt resolve building within him to act upon this moment with kindness and understanding. As Charlie spoke, Jamie felt a swell of emotion rising within him. Each story revealed not just the weight of the past but also a profound vulnerability that resonated deeply in his own heart. The diner around them faded into a blur, with laughter and clinking dishes becoming a distant echo. Jamie's focus was solely on this man whose life experiences had shaped him into someone both strong and fragile. When Charlie fell silent, staring down at the table as if lost in memories, Jamie's mind raced with thoughts of how to express his appreciation for the openness shared between them. He recalled the stories his grandfather had told him about camaraderie and sacrifice, and a sense of urgency welled up inside him. This was not just another meal, it was a moment that encapsulated humanity's shared struggles and triumphs. After a brief hesitation, Jamie made up his mind. "Charlie," he said gently, breaking the silence, "I want to take care of your meal tonight." The words flowed out before he could second-guess himself. It felt right, an instinctual response to show gratitude for the courage it took for Charlie to share his burden. Charlie's eyes widened in surprise, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face. "You don't have to do that," he replied softly, his voice tinged with both gratitude and reluctance. "I know I don't have to," Jamie responded, feeling a warmth spreading through him. "But I want to. You've given me something special tonight by sharing your story, and it's the least I can do." As he walked away to process the payment, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that this simple act of kindness was more than just paying for a meal. It was an acknowledgement of Charlie's struggles and a bridge connecting their lives in that fleeting moment. He felt a profound sense of purpose, knowing that sometimes the smallest gestures could carry the greatest weight of meaning. As Jamie returned to the bustling diner, having paid for Charlie's meal, a ripple of reactions swept through the establishment. At one end of the counter, an elderly woman with silver hair paused mid-bite, her eyes widening with admiration as she overheard Jamie's conversation. She leaned in closer to her husband, whispering excitedly about the young waiter's kindness, her expression glowing with approval. It was a moment that reminded them both of the compassion they had witnessed in their own lives. Across the aisle, a group of college students, engrossed in their lively discussion about weekend plans, barely glanced up from their screens. Indifference radiated from them, they seemed immune to the poignant exchange happening just a few feet away. Their focus remained on their phones and each other's jokes, oblivious to the powerful moment unfolding around them. But it wasn't just the patrons who were affected. Behind the counter, Claire, a fellow waitress who considered Jamie a good friend, caught sight of what he had done. She felt a surge of respect and pride for him, admiration that stirred her own desire to contribute more meaningfully in her day-to-day work. She shot him an encouraging smile as she refilled coffee mugs nearby. As whispers of Jamie's act spread throughout the diner like wildfire, some customers began to share stories of their own encounters with veterans or acts of kindness they had witnessed. The atmosphere transformed from casual chatter into an engaging conversation about compassion and community support. Even those indifferent students occasionally glanced up, curiosity piqued by snippets of heartfelt dialogue surrounding them. The collective ambience shifted. It was no longer just dinner but a shared experience that bound strangers together through empathy and reflection. Outside this cozy diner, onlookers would later hear about this small but impactful moment, further uniting a community eager to support its members, proof, perhaps, that even in the small corners of everyday life, acts of kindness could resonate widely and inspire change. As Jamie returned to Charlie's table after processing the payment, he found the veteran looking up with a mixture of surprise and gratitude etched across his weathered face. Charlie's eyes sparkled, not from tears but from a warmth that had been absent earlier in the evening. "You didn't have to do this," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of unspoken emotions. "It means more to me than you know." Jamie smiled, feeling a swell of pride at the acknowledgement. "I wanted to," he replied simply, sensing the moment's importance. Charlie took a deep breath as if the act itself had lifted some of the burdens he'd been carrying. "You see," Charlie continued, hesitating briefly as he collected his thoughts, "there are days when you feel invisible. It's easy to forget that anyone cares at all." He paused, glancing around the diner where conversations danced around them. "But then something like this happens, and it stirs hope back into your heart. It reminds me that there are still good people in this world." Jamie listened intently as Charlie recounted how small acts of kindness had occasionally changed his outlook during dark times in his life. The stories poured out moments when strangers had offered assistance or warmth when he felt most alone. These gestures, Charlie reflected, they can light up the darkest days. They remind us that we are not alone in our struggles. Feeling inspired by Charlie's reflections, Jamie responded, "It's a reminder for me too. I want to do more to help others." This exchange solidified their connection further, a shared understanding that kindness, however small, ripples through lives and communities. Charlie nodded appreciatively and expressed his determination to pay it forward whenever he could. With that commitment hanging in the air between them, both men knew this moment would stay with them long after they left the diner, an emblem of hope and resilience forged through simple humanity. The following morning, the sun cast a golden hue as it crested over the horizon, illuminating the quaint diner nestled at the corner of Main Street. It was a typical day in the busy town, with locals bustling about their routines, but an unusual sight captured their attention. A military truck pulled up sharply outside the diner, its sturdy frame casting a long shadow across the pavement. Curiosity rippled through the crowd, drawing patrons away from their morning coffees and light breakfast discussions. Heads turned as the gleaming emblem of the military stood proudly on the side of the vehicle, evoking a mix of intrigue and anticipation among those gathered. Jamie, in his usual apron, stepped out onto the sidewalk just in time to witness the stirring scene unfold. The sound of boots clanging against metal filled the air as service members emerged from the truck, 2 men and a woman, all clad in crisp uniforms with expressions that balanced seriousness and approachability. They scanned their surroundings before locking eyes with Jamie through the diner window. A flicker of recognition passed between them. They had heard about his kind act from Charlie. As they approached, chatter among onlookers grew louder. Was this an official visit? Had they come to recognize an act of kindness? Children tugged on their parents' sleeves while adults leaned in closer, mindful but eager for answers. Jamie felt an electric buzz of excitement coursing through him. He could almost sense that something profound was about to happen. Walking closer to one of the service members, Jamie felt both a sense of apprehension and hope wash over him. He recalled Charlie's story and how small acts of kindness had resonated deeply within each person they touched. The military personnel halted just outside the door, poised and ready to share whatever news brought them here, a moment poised between gratitude and revelation, entirely anchored in that diner's spirit of community. As the doors of the military truck swung open, 3 personnel stepped out, their presence commanding immediate respect and attention. Dressed in crisp olive-green uniforms adorned with insignias that represented their respective ranks and units, they exuded a sense of purpose. The lead officer, a tall man with a stern yet approachable demeanor, adjusted his cap as he surveyed the diner's exterior, his eyes sharp and observant. His name tag read Captain Reynolds, indicating his leadership role within the team. Flanking him were a young woman and a burly man, both radiating an air of camaraderie that suggested they had faced challenges together. The woman, with her short-cropped hair and focused expression, carried herself with confidence. Her name tag identified her as Sergeant Kim. Beside her, the burly man smiled warmly, his easygoing nature evident even in uniform. He was Corporal Smith, and his stance relaxed the tension that hung in the air. As they approached the diner, whispers of curiosity rippled through the crowd. Patrons exchanged glances, wondering why these military personnel were here. Jamie stood at the threshold, heart pounding as he prepared to greet them. He sensed that this encounter held significance beyond just a simple visit. Captain Reynolds stepped forward first, extending a hand toward Jamie. "Good morning," he said with a firm grip. "We're here because we heard about an act of kindness that took place last night." His voice was steady and calm, but there was an underlying excitement that hinted at something meaningful about to unfold. Jamie felt a jolt of recognition wash over him. This was linked to his gesture towards Charlie. The captain continued, "We want to honor you and thank you for your compassion. It's crucial for our community and veterans like Charlie." As he spoke, Jamie noticed Sergeant Kim and Corporal Smith exchanging encouraging looks. The atmosphere shifted again, filled with anticipation as Jamie realized that this moment would not only acknowledge his actions but also serve as a powerful testament to the bond forged between those who served and those who remember them. As Captain Reynolds spoke to Jamie, the atmosphere shifted and a deeper connection began to unfold. His gaze turned towards the diner window where Charlie had been seated just the night before. "You see," the captain explained, "Charlie served in our unit many years ago. We fought side by side during a particularly tough deployment." Jamie's heart raced as he processed this revelation, realizing that the bond between these military personnel and Charlie was deeply rooted in shared experiences of bravery and sacrifice. Captain Reynolds continued, "After the war, circumstances changed for many of us, including Charlie. The transition back to civilian life can be incredibly challenging, and not everyone makes it through unscathed." Sergeant Kim chimed in, her voice steady yet filled with empathy. Charlie always looked out for us during our service. He had this incredible ability to lift morale even in the darkest of times. A faint smile crossed her lips as she recalled memories of their time together. We had each other's backs then, and now we want to do what we can to support him. Corporal Smith added, it's a tight-knit community in the military. When one of us struggles, we all feel it. That's why we're here, to check on Charlie and make sure he knows he's not forgotten. The depth of their camaraderie resonated with Jamie, who understood now that his small act of kindness toward Charlie had sparked something much larger. It wasn't merely about paying for a meal, it was about reconnecting a veteran to those who cared deeply about him. As the 3 service members prepared to reach out to Charlie, Jamie felt a swell of pride wash over him. In that moment, he realized they were all part of a continuum, a chain of compassion linking veterans and civilians alike, demonstrating that kindness could forge powerful connections and heal old wounds in ways that might never be seen but would always be felt. As the military truck parked outside the diner, a palpable shift took place within the space. Patrons abandoned their meals, drawn to the unfolding scene, conversations quieted, and all eyes turned toward the service members stepping out of the vehicle. An atmosphere of reverence settled over the diner, as if everyone instinctively understood that something significant was at hand. The elderly couple from last night's dinner shared knowing glances, their expressions reflecting pride and nostalgia for their own experiences with veterans. The woman squeezed her husband's hand and murmured, "It's so heartwarming to see this." Nearby, young families leaned in closer as children whispered questions about the uniforms and what it meant to serve in the military. Jamie watched with a mix of excitement and apprehension, aware that he had unknowingly ignited this moment through his act of kindness for Charlie. The staff felt energized, sharing smiles and exchanging looks that conveyed a sense of community spirit ignited by a shared purpose to support those who had bravely served. As Captain Reynolds addressed Jamie and explained Charlie's connection to them, whispers shot through the diner like electricity. Patrons began recounting tales of their own encounters with veterans or how they had seen acts of kindness echoed in their own lives. The stories woven together created a rich tapestry of compassion, a collective understanding that they were all part of something larger. Some customers rose from their seats, daring to step outside for a closer look or to shake hands with the service members. The atmosphere transformed from casual dining chatter into a gathering marked by unity and shared respect for those who had fought for their freedoms. With every interaction, be it a handshake or an encouraging nod, the diners felt a renewed sense of purpose. As they showed support for both Charlie and the military personnel, it became evident that this event would further strengthen the bonds within their community, a powerful reminder of the ripple effect that one small act of kindness could create. In the wake of Jamie's simple act of kindness, the diner had transformed into a vibrant hub of connection and community spirit. What began as just one waiter paying for a meal blossomed into a significant reminder of the importance of supporting veterans and recognizing their sacrifices. The military personnel's arrival only served to amplify this sentiment, solidifying the bond between those who served and the community they fought to protect. Reflecting on the events that transpired, it became clear how powerful gestures, no matter how small, can ripple through a community in unexpected ways. Jamie's decision to pay for Charlie's meal was more than just financial support, it was an acknowledgement of a shared humanity that transcended barriers and differences. Each person present in the diner that day could feel it, the warmth of compassion uniting them, sparking meaningful conversations about the struggles faced by veterans and what it means to truly care for one another. As patrons exchanged stories about their own connections to veterans or acts of kindness they had witnessed, a renewed sense of responsibility emerged within the community. They recognized that there were many Charlies out there, individuals whose lives had been shaped by experiences beyond their control who needed not only assistance but also the affirmation that they mattered. The diner, once merely a place for breakfast and coffee, had become a symbol of hope and resilience. Jamie realized that his small action had inspired others to think more deeply about their role in supporting those who had served. This event proved that kindness does not exist in isolation, it fosters communal growth and understanding. In honoring Charlie's journey, Jamie ignited a spark within his community, reminding everyone that compassion can forge connections that heal old wounds and create a brighter path forward. As he walked away from the scene, he felt proud, knowing he had played a part in weaving together a narrative of support, respect, and unity that would endure well beyond that day in the diner. As the events of that day settled into memory, one truth emerged with clarity. Small acts of kindness possess the power to create ripples of change that extend far beyond what we can see. Jamie's decision to pay for Charlie's meal was a simple gesture, yet it ignited a spark in his community, reminding everyone present of the profound impact such actions can have on individuals and relationships. Every day we encounter opportunities to lend a hand, offer a smile, or extend a moment of compassion to those around us. Whether it's helping a neighbor carry groceries, sharing a kind word with someone feeling down, or simply listening to someone's story, these small gestures hold immense potential. They not only uplift the receiver but also enrich the giver's life in unexpected ways. Imagine the collective power of kindness if each person committed to performing just one thoughtful act every day. The results could be transformative, a community woven together by empathy and understanding, creating a safety net for those who feel isolated or forgotten. It is within our capacity to foster an environment where every individual feels valued and connected. As you go about your day, take a moment to reflect on how you can contribute positively to your surroundings. The world may seem vast and overwhelming at times, but remember that change often begins with one person. Your actions can inspire others to do the same, sparking a chain reaction of goodwill. Let this be a call to action. Embrace the opportunities for kindness that arise in your life. Be the reason someone smiles today, and in doing so, help shape a brighter future for all. Together, we can create a legacy grounded in compassion, one small act at a time.